I was about to hug my daughter when she pushed me off and said, "Get away from me, you pedo." I didn't move. My 7-year-old daughter was looking at me like I was a monster. I said, "Willow, what are you talking about? Who taught you that word?" She backed up against the wall, arms crossed over her chest. My teacher said all men who touch kids are predators. She said even dads. She said if a dad wants to be alone with you, he's testing boundaries and you should never trust it. My heart filled with rage. I responded, "Honey, that's not true. I love you." Suddenly she gasped like she was shocked. "My teacher said you would say that," was all she said before storming into her room. That night I called the school. The secretary tried to use the default answering message, "Hey, this is Sunshine School. How can I help?" I cut straight to the point. "What is Miss Breen teaching her students?" The secretary's voice got weird the second I mentioned the teacher's name. "She has her methods. Some parents have misunderstood them before, but she has the highest grade average in the entire district." I demanded a meeting with the principal, and after 10 minutes of arguing back and forth, she booked me in for the next morning. When it was time for the meeting, I walked in planning to be calm and civilized. But as soon as I sat down, the principal said the words that made me lose my mind. "So I heard you're another parent who's been overreacting about Miss Breen." I clenched my fists. "Miss Breen is the reason my own daughter accused me of doing something so disgusting." He just shrugged and asked, "Well, are you?" I stared at him in disbelief and forced myself to take a deep breath. "Can I see the curriculum my child is being taught?" He shook his head. "That's not standard practice." I left his office feeling more frustrated than ever. I went home and tried to talk to Willow again. I just wanted to understand exactly what this teacher had been telling her. But the second I walked toward her room, she backed into the corner. The teacher said not to be alone with dads. Her voice was shaking. "If you come closer, I'm calling the police." I stopped in the doorway. My 7-year-old daughter had just threatened to call the police on me. I turned around and walked away because I didn't know what else to do. The next day, I showed up at school pickup early to talk to other parents and see if their children were being taught the same things as Willow. But the first mom I approached saw me coming and immediately pulled her kid closer. She walked the other way without a word, and then I heard her whisper to another parent, "That's the creep Willow was talking about." My stomach dropped. Willow had been repeating this stuff to her classmates, and she'd named me specifically. I wasn't just some concerned dad anymore. I was the dad everyone was warned about. I filed a formal complaint with the school board that afternoon, but the next morning, before I even heard back, there was a knock at my door. Two people in business casual with clipboards. CPS. "We received a report and we need to speak with Willow alone." I had no choice but to let them. I sat in my living room for 45 minutes while a stranger asked my daughter questions about me in her own bedroom. When the caseworker came back out, she didn't look at me like a concerned father. She looked at me like a suspect. "Your daughter repeated several concerning statements. She says you try to hug her even when she says no. She says daddy's hugs are bad. She says her teacher told her dads hurt kids." I tried to explain. I told her everything. The teacher, the principal, the other parents. But the caseworker just nodded like he was waiting for me to stop talking. When I was done, he said, "I understand, but this is now an open investigation." I had one option left. I called the school board and demanded a face-to-face meeting with Miss Breen herself. I didn't care what it cost me. I needed answers. A week later, I walked into that conference room ready for a fight. The principal was there, a district representative, and then the teacher walked in. She wasn't what I expected. She was small, soft-spoken, and wouldn't make eye contact. She sat down with her hands folded tight like she was bracing for impact. The district rep cleared his throat. "Before we begin, there's something you need to know." I muttered under my breath, "This better be good." He spoke again. "Miss Breen has autism. She interprets things very literally. And years ago, she attended a child safety training where she was told, statistically, men are more likely to be abusers. She took it as fact, absolute fact, and she'd been teaching it to kids ever since because she genuinely believed she was protecting them." The teacher finally looked up at me. "I never meant to hurt anyone. I thought I was keeping them safe." And I believed her. I could see it in her face. She wasn't malicious. She was someone who'd been handed bad information and didn't have the ability to question it. "So why haven't you fired her?" I blurted, needing an answer. The principal just sighed. "The state forces us to have a quota of hiring at least one disabled person. If I fire Miss Breen, that means I'll have to hire someone even worse." Long story short, I didn't press charges. I just made her promise she would teach my daughter to feel safe around me again. And that night, for the first time in weeks, Willow climbed into my lap and let me hold her.